see my girlfriend in college that summer, but between her sophomore year and her junior year, I gave her a ring. And we were engaged for about a year before we got married. And she had a double major. She majored in home ec and also in early child development. And she ran the nursery school for them her senior year over there. They had a day nursery for the people in town that brought the kids there. And she was the director of that her senior year, although she still had supervisors, teacher supervisors that helped her. And when she finished Winthrop, she was offered 2 jobs, and both of them making a great deal more money than I was making. They wanted her to go, one wanted her to go to Charleston to run a nursery school for women who were working in the war plants, helping in the war effort. And one of them was in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, doing pretty much the same thing, running a nursery for women who were working in the shipyard. But she turned them both down and married me 10 days after she finished school.
And what year was that?
Huh?
What year was that? What was that date?
1943. Yeah. And she cried every month because she wasn't pregnant. She wanted to have children so bad. And finally she did get pregnant.
Where were y'all living at the time?
We were living in a little 4-room house down on Kentucky Avenue. It was a house that I built to rent because when I started working at the lumberyard, I bought a $75 lot down near Duncan Park Lake, and I built a house on it, a 4-room house on it. It cost me a little less than $1,200 for the house, lot, and all. And I rented it for about 3 years. I rented it for about 3 years for $45 a month, which more than paid for it. And then when I got engaged, Louise and myself went down there and we papered the walls and we cleaned it up, refurbished it. It just had brick across the front, and I went on and underpinned the rest of it in the evenings when I get home. And we were expecting our 4th child when we left there. I bought 2.5 acres up on Lucerne Drive, and we built a 6-room house up there. Well, we felt like we'd been turned out to pasture, getting out of that 4-room house into that 6 rooms.
I bet.
And we lived there for about 22 years, I believe. And we kept adding on downstairs, upstairs, out. And when we left and moved away from that, sold that house, it had about 10 or 12 rooms in it, 4.5 baths. I don't know. We sold it, and then it was built out on 4 Mile Branch Road, where I still have that home out there, and we have it for sale.
And you built that house, right?
My brother Barry built it for me.
Built it for you. Did y'all sit down together and come up with a floor plan, or?
No, my wife drew the floor plan.
Did she?
Yeah, she drew the floor plan. She had a brother who was an architect, and she told him that she was going to build a house. He said, "Where are you going to build it?" He said, "I'll draw the plans for you for nothing." She said, "I don't want you to draw them." She said, you won't draw them the way I want them. You'll try to make it look like a schoolhouse or something. And I don't want it to look like that." So she drew her own plans, and they gave them to my brother, and he made everything work. You know, he had to change a few things to make it all work in like she wanted it. But it's been a nice home, and none of my grandchildren ever remember me living anywhere but there, because Mike was the oldest one was 6 months old when we moved there. So that was Grandma's house, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of good times there. Well, my Louise was a decorator. She decorated every room in the house, even the bathrooms, you know. Everything was decorated. It took several of the grandchildren each year to, later on when they got older, it took several of the grandchildren to get it all put up. And we sort of made a party out of that time. They'd come on, yeah, I guess it must have been Thanksgiving holidays, and we'd all light in there and decorate the thing up, and when it was all done, we'd go out to eat a meal somewhere, celebrate. But it was some fun times. Yeah.
And
We had a lot of people come in too. We had all kinds of folks.
oh yeah.
People still tell me about coming.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are grown and got kids now and talk about when they were a kid.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was 6 and 7, I think, the 2 years we went.
Were the pinball machines there at that time?
They were, yeah. Pac-Man, Frogger, Space Invaders. Yeah, we would play those games and really have a great time. And I remember it. I still vividly remember going to the Neely's house at Christmas time.
I had an elf room set up in that shop,
Mm-hmm.
and I had these little elves that moved that
I remember.
Kids were fascinated with. Yeah.
I remember nailing some stuff into a sawhorse or a board or something in there, and then the trains out on the porch.
Yeah.
Remember that too?
You don't want to buy a board. It's got all those nails in it, do you?
Nah, I think we're good on board.
I remember we were attending First Baptist Church. We started when I was just a lad. I don't remember the first time I went. But when I was 10 years old, a pastor got up and preached a sermon. And my heart was strangely warmed by what he was saying. And I just felt this tugging at my heart when he gave the invitation that I needed to make a decision about it. And I was sitting with my mom and dad, and I told my mom, and she said, well, Kirk, if that's the way you feel, go down and tell the pastor. And so I went down to the front. Dr. William Ball was our pastor. He was the father of Billy Ball, who later came to Spartanburg and was pastor of the Fernwood Baptist Church. And I told him, and I was the only one that Sunday that went down. And so he presented me to the church, and the church voted on me. And when time came for me to be baptized, the baptistry was up on the rostrum.
On the what?
Up on the rostrum.
Mm-hmm.
It was wasn't up in the wall. You walked up on the rostrum and down into the pool, and you were baptized. And after I was baptized, I went out of that, down the steps, and out of a door in the side of the sanctuary into a ladies' classroom, and stood in a tin tub. And Mr. H.T. Littlejohn helped me get dressed. I always had that in mind, and I always told everybody that when I was baptized, Mr. H.T. Littlejohn helped me. He has folks who are still members of that church. His daughter's a member of Morningside. She's a good bit younger than me, but I've told her the story several times. But Mr. Littlejohn did everything. He came up early on Sunday morning, stoked the stoker, and got the building warm, and he filled the baptistry when it needed filling and emptied it. And he just did everything like that. He was not a janitor. He was a clerk. He had a general merchandise store down on Magnolia Street, where the county courthouse is now. He had a pretty nice business, but he was just a volunteer who did all those for the church.
It ministered to your heart a great deal.
Yeah, it meant a lot to me, and so at age 10, I gave my heart to Jesus, and I've been trying to serve him as best I can ever since. God's been good to me. He's been good to my family. Been a lot better to me than I've been to him, I'm afraid.
You started speaking earlier, the first time Louise got pregnant with Kurt's oldest, right?
Right.
Kurt Jr.
Kurt's the oldest one.
What was that like, beginning fatherhood, and what has it taught you over time?
Well, it was a pretty proud thing. The thing I remember about it most was that we had decided we weren't going to tell anybody for a while. She wanted to wait until she started showing. But I fell and broke my arm, and my dad carried me to the hospital, and they put me to sleep to set my arm because it was broken pretty bad. And when I started coming out from underneath the ether, there were some student nurses that they had during the war. They had these candy cane girls, they called them, or something.
Candy strippers?
Because of the uniforms, I think. And there were several of them around the thing. And I told them all that we was going to have a baby.
Because you were drugged up.
I was drugged up. And I let the cat out of the bag. But after that, Beth was born, a little girl, and my next door neighbor didn't have any children. He came over and preached me a sermon and told me that I had one of each kind, and that was enough not to have any more. And I said, well, my problem is I've married a girl who I've promised that I'll let her have all she wants to have, because all the time, the whole year that we were engaged to be married, she said, now Kurt, don't marry me if you don't want to have children, because I'm going to have all that the Lord let me have. At one time she said she hoped it was 12. But she had 8, but actually she had 10, because I had 2 sons who were twins, and each time we lost one of the twins. Bill's twin died at birth, and was already dead, I think, when he was born, because Bill was premature, had to go in an incubator. He didn't have any hair or eyebrows. He just was very premature. And the other one, she lost during the pregnancy. Is Bob's twin. And when she went to the doctor and told him that she'd lost the fetus, he examined her and said, well, you still have one. You still have a baby. So we had 8 children, but we also had 2 of them had twins that died before they were born. So in actuality, I guess we had 10. But she loved children. She knew how to, if it's anything she knew to do, she knew how to raise children. She equipped herself for that in school, and she just had a God-given talent. She worked in the church nursery for 56 years, doing three-year-olds. They would turn 4 while they were in there. And it's amazing that children that small, even now, there are kids who will come to me and tell me that they had, they say, I had Miss Neely when I was in the nursery, 4 years old.
Wow.
She made that much impression on them. She had a real unique way of teaching and getting attention. She never raised her voice, not at home or in a classroom. She just talked in a smooth, quiet voice. But kids would just be enchanted with her, you know. She'd sit them down. I know the girl who was in charge of the nurseries at First Baptist said she'd never seen anybody that could hold a 4-year-old child's attention as long as Louise could. But they would just, she'd start telling them a story, and they'd just sit there glued to her. She was a wonderful lady. God's given me 2 good women.
I know that.
I've had 2 of the most beautiful women God's ever put on this earth. And they're not alike.
They're not.
They're different, completely different from each other. But I never thought I could fall in love again, but I did, and she in her own unique ways is so different that it makes it I don't know what you call it, a very pleasant road to travel, because it's not hard to tell that she loves me and I love her.
You're right. And how'd you 2 meet?
Well, my Louise died, and I told everybody that I've told this tale to was that I was in a spider hole. You know what a spider hole is?
I have an idea, I guess.
That's what that guy that in Afghan was when they found him. He was in a spider hole. You go down and you got a tunnel, you know. I was so devastated. And there's been tales told to me about women who were making a pass at me. And I didn't realize that this was going on even. I was just so hurt and so lost. Because, you know, I think most men think they'll die before their wives do. And I certainly did. She was 2 years my junior, and I just thought that I'd outlive her. I mean, she'd outlive me. But Kitty, after Ray died, a year later, Ruth's wife died, Ruth's husband died. Kitty was inviting me for dinner when she was cooking. And then she started inviting her mother-in-law to come. And we sat across the table, usually from each other. And I don't know, just one day I realized it, you know. I think when it really happened, it might have been at Ray's funeral. I saw her and Bruce standing outside the mausoleum. And boy, my heart just ached for her, you know. I just felt so hard, so far. And so I finally got up courage one day to ask her to go to Sunday lunch with me. And she did. I don't think either one of us ate anything, but I felt like I was cheating. I mean, she might have too, I don't know. But anyway, after that, we started seeing each other occasionally. And it just grew into something beautiful.
And when were the two of you married?
Huh?
When were the two of you married?
We were married on, and let's see if I can remember now.
May 25th.
May
2003.
About 6 years ago.
Hmm.
Ruth knows the exact date.
It was May the 25th, 2003.
Yeah, we married on somebody else's wedding day too.
Beth and Jill.
Yeah, Beth and Jules. It's been a beautiful journey, I tell you.
Hmm.